Hello, hello. I am super excited today to have Eileen Johnson, my incredible client, with me here today, talking a little bit about the work that we did together. But first, kind of introduce yourself, Eileen, and tell us a little bit of who you are and what you do.
Sure. Hi, I'm Eileen Johnson, and I am a coach to mid to high level corporate professional women. And I work with them to help them repackage and repurpose the work that they're already doing so that they can actually do work that they love.
Yeah. Big thing. I love it. So basically, Eileen and I started working a few months ago. And well, I'm actually going to have you answer. I'll tell you what my vision of where you were was in a minute. I think I said that correctly, but tell me a little bit of what you felt was going on for you before you, or like where you were in your business before you and I started working together.
Yeah. So I could probably talk forever about that, but I'll try to keep it short and sweet. But basically, I was at a point where I'd been doing the work. I'd been kind of trying to bring in new clients, and I kind of had gotten to a point where I felt like I wasn't bringing in the right people. And I saw Fabi do a post that really resonated with me, and it was really just that I wasn't super 100% clear about what made me different from all the other people out there. And I couldn't put my finger on it, even though I knew inside of me that I wasn't doing what everybody else was doing, but I didn't know how to express it. I didn't know how to let people know what that was. And because I wasn't able to do that, I was getting calls for people that just needed to land a job next week. And that's not what I do. And so it was getting frustrating. Like, I was getting leads, but they weren't the right leads. And so it was kind of starting to make me question, am I doing something wrong? And so it was a relief when I finally found Fabi, who could help me really articulate what it is that I do and why it's so different from a lot of other people.
I think that I remember our first call together, and you were like, I don't know why I'm like you were so, there was such a lack of confidence in what you were doing, and kind of seeing other people and being like, I don't know, is there anything really different about me? I'm just like a normal person, a normal career coach. And I was like, no, Eileen, you're amazing. You have all these things. For me, it was a really interesting process seeing you like kind of fall back in love with yourself in a way, you know what I mean? Like being like, wait a minute, I am kind of a badass. I am really cool at this. I am good at it. There was a lot of lack of confidence in what you were doing before. It
Yes.
felt like that to me.
Yeah.
So had you done like like you had invested a lot in your business before, you had done a whole bunch of things, and still there was something that was missing, right?
Absolutely.
And I feel like sometimes what happens is that we might, and I talk about this all the time, we might have like all these marketing strategies and all these things that are like on paper perfect, but because there's a lack of clarity, even if you shouldn't have a lack of clarity in theory, right? Like, because that's one of those things that we're like, but I actually should know, I've been doing this for 20 years or 30 years or however many years, and I'm like, I should know what I'm about, but there's something off there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you and I started working together, what was like, tell me a little bit of like what that experience was for you. What was like your big like aha through it, or breakthrough, or whatever you want to call it?
Yeah, I think there were a couple, like, working through the initial paperwork that you give your clients, and then I worked through. I said to another coach friend of mine who actually is now working with you, I said to her, I was like, there's not a lot of rocket science going on in here, but for whatever reason, however you set it up, I did have like these aha moments, answering the same questions I'd probably answered before, but there was something about like, oh, now I'm kind of seeing the pieces come back together. And even doing some of that work, I still had a little bit of that confidence thing of like, I don't know what makes me different. But what I thought was so amazing is I turned it over to you, and you were able to pull out all of the things that make me different, the things that make me special. And it's so interesting because I do that with my own clients, but it's so hard to do it for yourself. And so when I got my brand strategy book back, I'm like, oh my God, this is what I've been trying to say for the last 3 years, but I haven't been able to figure it out. And you, with your gift, were able to just like put it into a concise, consolidated, this is what Eileen stands for. And I just like, and that makes everything else then easier for me moving forward.
It was so funny because when I was working on it, I was like, oh my God, I got it. You know, I feel like one of the big things that was an issue with you is that your message was really focused around money, like, oh, land your 6-figure job and like all these things, but that wasn't really what was in your heart. And you felt like, I need to talk about these things, but really what was in your heart was having these women just really fall in love with their careers and feel great and feel like I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing beyond the number of, beyond how much money you make. And when we were able to like nail it, you were like, I remember when I wrote it, I was like, this is Eileen. Like I felt it. And I sent it to you and you were like, oh my God, this is exactly what I was trying to say. So that was really cool. And then we went on to working on your brand and everything. And I'm actually going to show what it used to look like. So this is what it used to look like. I don't want to shame you here. It wasn't terrible. Really. I've seen worse, but it was really basic and there wasn't a lot of personality to it. And then when you and I worked together, we really transformed it. Like obviously big difference. Like even you were hiding here literally in the dark. And in here it's like, boom, superstar Eileen, which you are. And, just having that message of unleashing fierce courage. You said this fierce courage to me like a million times. And you were like, I don't know what my message is. And I was like, it's right in front of your eyes. You keep on saying it and repeating it. This is what it's about. Like just having the courage to do what you're meant to be doing. So how did that feel, seeing your brand come to life like this?
Like it was beautiful. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know it could be so beautiful. And I just feel like it up levels everything that I was doing too. And I think it lends a lot more legitimacy. It makes me feel more confident too of like, this is my beautiful website, putting it out there. Whereas before I was like, yeah, it's my website. It's not so great, but
yeah,
job done.
Yeah. And then from there, we moved on to marketing. And in your case, we're working on your webinar, rephrasing. You have an insanely amazing webinar. I kept on telling you like, wow. But, it was about helping you find your voice too within that, to make sure that marketing strategy was really able to capture and bring in the right people, right?
Yep.
How did that process of going through creating that marketing strategy go for you? Did you feel it guided you, it took you in the right place?
Yeah. I think, again, I sound like a broken record, but like none of it is rocket science. And yet the way you taught the webinar is different from how I've learned from other people, and just like teeny little tweaks of it. And I think it just made it easier for me to write the webinar, because I didn't have to come up with like these kitschy things that didn't actually connect, where like each of my steps in my webinar, they all connect together and they all connect back to my program.
Yeah.
And so it's not just like, oh, I just had this like really smart little saying I'm going to use in my webinar. It actually all makes sense. And so it feels so much more congruent with everything. I mean, with my entire brand, with what I'm actually doing. So then when they get into the program, they're not surprised, because this is all stuff that they've been hearing all along. This is how I operate. This is what I do. And so I feel like it was just a little shift from what I'd learned before, but that it made a huge difference.
Yeah. And speaking of the program, that's part of what we did together too, which was kind of bring together a lot of the pieces and the things that you had in the past and kind of envision the way that your program works now, where it brings, because again, it's not, before it might have been a lot about money. And I remember you even telling me like, I don't really want to do this thing on like how to change your LinkedIn profile. I don't want to do that. I'm against that. And we literally even wrote in here somewhere, I don't remember, but something like
right there. Yeah,
it is, all your coaches are teaching you is how to tweak your LinkedIn profile. That's not what I'm about. So we really were able to bring in a lot of like what your vision was to create a program that is really, really powerful. And then you're like, Fabi, I want a cute little drawing for it.
I did.
Literally, you were like, Fabi, I want that in there. But we brought a lot of those things in there. Okay, so how do you feel now with your brand and obviously we did like your message, your design, your program, your marketing. Now you have, we were just talking about it a moment ago, a clear plan of what you need to do to move ahead with your business, like on a day-to-day basis, prioritizing your goals and creating a routine and everything. So how do you feel now with everything that you have in place?
I feel really good about where I am right now. Like, I feel like I'm proud to put out what I have. Whereas I think before I've always just been like, oh, sorry, there's a fly flying around me. That I think I was a little bit almost gun shy to put stuff out there. Cause I was just like, it all kind of felt haphazard. Like I would do posts, but there was no consistency with them. Like there was just kind of, I was all over the place. Cause I was, I talk about this in my own program, is that you pick up tips and tricks from everywhere, but if those tips and tricks aren't kind of put together in a cohesive way, they just look like a hot mess. Mm-hmm. And that's how I felt like my business was before. It was like some of it worked, some of it didn't, but none of it really went together. And so I feel like I have much more of a cohesive plan. And I think too, when you were asking me this question, what came to me is really that I feel really authentic in what you have helped me put together. Before it was, again, picking up these input from other people who didn't really take the time to get to know me and get to know what I stand for and what I want to put out there in the world. And so I was putting out things that didn't totally feel 100% authentic and true to me. And which is funny because my whole thing about my program is being authentic and true to yourself. And then here I am feeling kind of incongruent with that. And so I feel like now I feel like you really helped me kind of almost get comfortable in my own skin in my business as well.
Right. And your voice kind of, right. Like, yeah. I feel like it makes all the difference, because the truth is that in my experience, when you don't have clarity around your voice, like it starts showing up in little places here and there. Like your marketing is off, your program is off, like all these little things end up being off. And then people capture that same energy from you, they're confused, they don't get what you're about, they don't really understand it, so you attract the wrong people, or the people that you attract that you enroll, then they're like, some of them get results but some of them don't, because it's like, well, there wasn't that clarity so there's all these things that are all over the place, where like here it's like, okay, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, and now all of it is aligned with my message.
Yes, exactly.
And then I gave you like a gazillion little trainings, which you watched in a day, to, okay, what do you do now? Once everything is ready, how do I drive traffic? How do I get clients? And not only, because, and I talk about this a lot, like obviously there's ads and things like that what we can do, but there's all of these other little strategies and tactics and things that you can do organically to drive traffic, which I feel like a lot of people end up like, don't do that. But they're actually really valuable ways to get traffic in without having to spend a ton of money on ads at first, especially when you're starting. You don't want to like throw all your money in there. But anyways, there was all these trainings in there.
Yes.
And you were like, I watched them all already like in a day. And I'm like, wow, a lot of trainings to watch. But yeah, anyways. Okay, so what are some of the big like takeaways that you have for other people through this process? You kind of already touched on them, but
yeah, I think that like one of my takeaways is that I think a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we think that we can do this, or we've taken a class and we think we can figure this out. And I think there's just something about this process that like you need that outside person. You need the person that has the zone of genius that you have, of being able to pick out the pieces for you, because some people maybe can do that, but I think most people can't. And so I think it's one of those things that like, even if you think you can do it, or even if you think you already have it nailed down, you probably don't, because there's probably more that can be pulled out and like fleshed out and made better. So I think that's part of it. Any other ahas? I mean, I just think the work that we've done together has like been so amazing. Yeah. So I think it's just knowing that Fabi's amazing, first of all. I just like can't sing your praises enough. And just getting the help when you need it. Like it doesn't have to be so hard. I've struggled for a while. And I'm really excited now that I've got this cohesive brand to move forward with, that it's the right people I just know the right people are going to start coming. And I'm so excited for that.
Yeah, I'm excited for you too. Really, it's been like amazing. It's just been a really interesting process working with you, because I don't know why this happens, and it happens often. A lot of times the people that I feel are the most qualified are the ones that have more self-doubt. And it's funny because you came to me and there was so much like lack of confidence in yourself. And then and it was almost, for me from the outside, I don't know if it felt like that from the inside to you, but it was like the moment that we hit the nail on the head, I think that's how you say it, I don't know. Like with the message, it was like, oh yeah, I am unique. Oh yeah, you know what? I am like I am really good at this. Actually, it was like a switch. A switch? Yeah, like we flipped the switch. I don't know what's going on with my English right now. But it was like, boom, got it. This is who I am. That's how it felt for me from the outside looking at you. And it was just so powerful seeing you come into your confidence and create all the content that we've created and all the stuff that we've built, and just seeing this brand come to life, and like, okay, here I am, just with total confidence, just like that. So that was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Anyways, all right. I loved having you as a client, and
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything you've done for me.
Bye.